Welcome back, everybody. It's been a couple of weeks since our first episode of the Fantasy Table, brought to you by the Blue Stable podcast, the official Colts podcast of Fansided. My name is Destin Adams. Join with me is Luke Verkamp. Luke, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Any day that I can talk about fantasy football is a good day.
Man, Luke, your mic's coming in hot. It's sounding good.
Hey, look at that.
Luke dropped some money on a mic, it looks like. I mean, it's whatever. Luke's rolling in the bags over there. But hey, we're gonna jump right in to some fantasy football talks. I mean, fantasy football's going. I mean, I did my first rookie draft last weekend. I know you had done a couple already, but man,
Yeah, I did mine the weekend before.
I was so excited with how mine ended up. I'm in a league
You
in
got
a
some
dynasty.
good picks.
I'm in a dynasty league. I ended up being the third worst team in the league. And on this roster, the only reason I'm there is because I got hurt. Everyone was hurt last year. But this team has McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and Michael Thomas all on the same team.
Man, that's
I was the third worst team in the league last year. Because they
may
were
have been
all
the third
hurt.
worst, but
Isn't that nuts? But
yeah, that's nuts.
So I picked third. I really wanted Kyle Pitts, really bad. The guy at 1 and 2 did a trade to swap picks basically, and then the same guy ended up with 1 and 2. He took Harris and Pitts in front of me. I ended up taking Jamar Chase at 3, and then I traded Robbie Anderson to get pick 10 of the first round, the last first of the round. And I got my draft crush, Michael Carter. Love me some Michael Carter in fantasy this year, buying all his stock. So I walked away with Jamar Chase, Michael Carter. I also ended up with Tommy Tremble, Kylan Granson. I loved it. I did. And then a little stash I did after the draft, I picked up Chris Evans for the Bengals. I like Chris Evans a lot. I think he's going to end up being like a Giovanni Bernard type there. Loved my first dynasty draft. Everyone's who's coming up, just try to top that in a 10-team league. I just don't think you can. But Jamar Chase and Michael Carter, I was happy the rest of the way. I didn't really care what happened.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to leave that draft without getting Michael Carter.
Oh, in any draft. If I have the chance, if it's realistic, if it's in the world of possibilities, I'm doing it. Like, it only took Robbie Anderson, though. I mean, I know Robbie Anderson was like a top 15 fantasy receiver last year, so I guess I shouldn't be saying only Robbie Anderson, but I was happy about it.
Yeah, he was good, but he's on the end of his contract, and there's a lot of people there in Carolina, so I can see that I feel like that's a good move.
Hey, had to happen, but talking about trades, I traded Robbie Anderson for a pick, but first topic we want to go into is trade for and trade away. We're each going to give you guys 3 people we think we should trade for and 3 people we think you guys should be trading away. My mom always told me to start with the negative, end with the positive. So that's how we're going to start it out. So we're going to do trade away. So let me hear your first trade away, Luke.
So trade away, you're basically trying to get as much value as you can for the picks while you got them. So my first trade away is going to be a big boy, and that's going to be Derrick Henry. I know Derrick, that's a big name to try to trade away, but we look at Todd Gurley a few years ago in Atlanta, or the Rams. I'm sorry, but yeah, we look at Todd Gurley, and if you would have had him whenever he was at his peak, you could have traded him for a lot. I know I heard somebody say that they traded away Todd Gurley for Dalvin Cook and multiple first-round picks. And looking at that now, that's amazing. So I just think that where he's at in his career, this year, he's probably going to be great yet. Like, he's still probably going to be a top 5 guy. But after this year, what are you going to have? This is probably where his value is still high because he's still that guy. But how much longer will you have that value to take advantage of?
Running back value is one of the hardest things to predict down the road because a guy who has top tier value one year, the next year you can't get rid of him. I mean, one of the hottest names going into draft season the last 2 years was Joe Mixon. And this year, it just feels like his value it's hard to move him. people are just scared to have a Joe Mixon right now, even though I like Joe Mixon still, but his value now compared to last year and 2 years ago is so different. I would say I disagree with you, but Derrick Henry's been traded in 3 leagues that I'm in, and I have not been one of the ones to get him or trade him away. But I mean, other people are optimizing on the value. They're getting a few firsts. I think one of them that traded him the other day they traded Derrick Henry, got 3 firsts down the road, got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and they got DJ Shark. Was what the deal was. So got younger, got the picks. So it kind of just depends on where your team is if you're doing that, I guess. But
if you're trying to win now, then yeah, I could see like why you would want to keep him. But if you're like not winning this year, I'd trade him, because the worst time to try to trade a player is whenever it's too late.
So my first trade away, I think you do even if you're in a win now or a rebuilding. I think so mine's Calvin Ridley. I tweeted this a while back and got a bunch of crap about it. But Calvin Ridley right now is getting like top 5 receiver vibes for fantasy. And let's say he goes into this year and kills it. But you get this crazy value right now. I just don't see a way that you sell him high right now and you're disappointed later. But I can see if you keep him and he isn't able to adjust to being that receiver 1 with no other guy really taking away any pressure from him. I mean, Pitts is there to kind of replace the Julio Jones effect. But I mean, corner CB1s are not going to be going on Kyle Pitts. They're going to be going over to Calvin Ridley. And to me, you get rid of him as you can. I sadly do not own any shares of Calvin Ridley across any of my leagues, and I'm in a lot of leagues, so it's kind of shocking. But if I had him, I'd be selling him high right now, no questions asked. So who is your second trade away, Luke?
Yeah, so I got your back on that tweet that you sent out, because I saw the guy trying to attack you for that. But yeah, it's like Ridley, I'd try to get the value all you can, because there's no guarantee he's going to be the number 1 overall wide receiver, and people are acting like he is. But as for my second guy, I'm going with Aaron Jones. Now, this one's for a mix of reasons, just because his value is still high, because Aaron Rodgers is still there in Green Bay. I know he's not showing up to practice, but he's still in Green Bay. And if he makes it through this season, then yeah, awesome. But what about next offseason? Is Aaron Rodgers still going to be pissed then? And also, running backs, once they hit that second contract, they usually start to go on the decline. I'd try to get younger. I'd try to get like a Cam Akers plus maybe a pick if you can for him. But yeah, Aaron Jones would be a great running back to try to trade away at the moment.
See, I am in the team Aaron Rodgers is going to be there this year. I just don't think anything ends up happening. But if Aaron Rodgers is not in Green Bay this year, I think the guy that takes the biggest drop fantasy-wise is Aaron Jones, because we've seen Davante Adams still be elite when another quarterback's there. I mean, he's just that good. Aaron Jones, I mean, it just feels like whenever he was running the ball, even into last year, he wasn't really finding holes well. He wasn't really finding his openings. He did a lot of his work in the passing game, and he was able to get his touchdowns a lot from that. And, I mean, they have A.J. Dillon there, who nothing but positives is coming out of camp. Nothing but positives is coming from the coaching staff. It's just hard when those – I was shocked he got paid again. I really thought they were going to let him walk to a team like New York or something that had the money to throw at a guy. He's back in Green Bay.
I was expecting Miami.
So, anything. Like anybody. I mean, Miami, I thought would draft somebody if they didn't sign someone. Neither of those happened. But Aaron Jones is a guy I would definitely trade away. So I would agree with you. The next one I'm going to go is also a running back, and it's going to be Josh Jacobs. I was as big of a Josh Jacobs fan as you could be at this time last year. I was team trade for him. I was team have him on your roster. He was in dynasty rankings. I had him as running back 3 going into last season. There's just been some reports that have came out, some people that have told some of the Blue Stable staff personally, actually close to the Raiders brass, that Josh Jacobs has some serious knee issues going on. That's going to have to be kind of checked out here and there for the foreseeable future, that he wants to keep playing football, basically. that makes me nervous. Knee injuries and running backs, and just a bad taste in your mouth. I think you should get rid of Josh Jacobs as you can, because I think most people, when they hear the name, they still think he's a top 10 running back. And when you hear top 10 running back in fantasy, you can get value. It's probably the easiest position to get the value out of, that and any hot name at any other position. But I would get the value for Josh Jacobs as you can, because I'm just nervous he's never going to play a complete season again.
Yeah, I love Josh Jacobs. I drafted him the year before last in like every league that I could, and I drafted him in the early second of our startup draft last year of our home team or home friend group startup draft. And I was able to trade him after the draft, our rookie draft, for Amari Cooper in the first. I was very happy to do so, because most likely I didn't want to try to just like start Josh Jacobs, because I don't know what he is going to be moving forward.
And then who do you have last on your list for trade away?
So for my third guy, this one isn't talked about very much, but I wanted to bring it up for a variety of reasons, and it's Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin was a fantasy darling, like whenever he went to Washington. Everybody loved him. And to me, I know he's being ranked around like the Michael Thomas area. And to me, I just don't see it. He's older than Ronald Jones. I know we all think that like Ronald Jones is like starting to get older, but Terry's older than him. He's never like produced as a wide receiver one fantasy wise, and yet people are drafting him in the third round thinking that he is. Now, I know people love him. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick's probably an upgrade over the other quarterbacks that he's played with in his career.
Just the other quarterbacks.
Just the other quarterbacks. But I don't think that he's going to be able to be that guy that can be a top 5 receiver in the league. And I'd try to get some value for him.
Man, I mean, I own Terry McLaurin in a few leagues. I've traded for him this summer in some leagues, actually. I don't know. I did not like Terry McLaurin in the draft process when he was coming out of Ohio State. I was team Paris Campbell over Terry McLaurin. I just didn't see the separation in Terry McLaurin. I didn't see the route running that I needed to see on his tape. And the dude's a stud. Like coming to the pros, I just feel like he's done everything I didn't think he could do.
He's definitely over exceeded expectations of him. Like he's definitely done way better than what he should have.
I definitely wouldn't take him as a top 10 fantasy receiver. I think he's right on the outside of that top 10 realm. But I mean, who am I? I mean, last year I was big on taking Cortland Sutton in the 4th round. I just really believed in the hype I was getting from him. And then obviously he tore his ACL before the season started. So we don't need to talk about Cortland Sutton right now, who broke my heart. But I mean, hey, if your team's trading away, your team trading away. I don't know if I can agree with you, but it's okay, because I know you're not going to agree with my last one. And that is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think he's good. And running backs, I feel like you find it out quicker than others when they're struggling. I mean, Kansas City, I'll put it this way. If Clyde wasn't in Kansas City, I don't think he'd be starting this year no matter what, because I think he just is such a liability with the ball in his hands. It just feels like he doesn't know where to go. I mean, he's very elusive. Like, don't get me wrong. He makes guys miss, but I feel like he puts himself in harder situations than he needs to. I don't think his field vision is that high. He doesn't really hit the hole as hard as I'd like him to. And he was just so inconsistent last year. Like, he'd have games where he went for 220 yards, and he'd have games where he went for 22 yards. Like, he's just a guy that he's almost like a boomer bust kind of guy. Kind of reminds me of like Lance Moore when he was on the Saints, when he would go for like 30 fantasy points 3 games a year and then 3 the rest. I would trade Clyde as you can. I mean, he's a big name, rookie last year. People love him. But I just don't want Clyde on any of my fantasy teams.
I mean, that's fair enough. I mean, this is probably a great segment to go into trade for, because he is actually the first guy on my trade for list. And the reasons for that is he's 22 years old. He is younger than Naje Harris, who just got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, I know he's already got that 1 year of experience in the NFL. He's younger than Naje Harris. He's got a better team, better offense than what Naje Harris is, but he's being drafted below Naje. That doesn't make sense to me. And I know you
would take Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Najee Harris this year?
I'm not saying that I would take him over it, but I'm saying that's like the value-wise is where he's being like projected at.
So let's say it's the fourth round. Najee. Let's say it's the fourth round in your fantasy draft, wherever you are. Maybe third, depending on how many teams you are. So let's say third round.
Najee and Clyde are going second and third right now.
So let's say third. And let's say you took a running back and receiver first. So they're both sitting right there. Who are you taking?
If I had to pick one, are we doing dynasty or redraft?
Let's say for this year.
This year, it's splitting hairs. There were like one spot away in my rankings, but in my rankings, I do have Clyde above Najee.
Fair enough.
So I would go Clyde.
Hey, to each their own. I would take Najee Harris without even thinking. But again, I mean, you heard my spiel on Clyde. I'm just not a big Clyde Edwards-Helaire guy. My trade 4 is also a second-year running back, but I think this guy's good, and that's Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers, first of all, big thing for me when it comes to fantasy running backs. I either need you to be super talented or I need you to have no competition in the backfield. And Cam Akers, I feel like, is on the brinks of being super talented and really doesn't have much competition in the backfield. I think Cam Akers is going to dominate it this year. They went with the split carries realm last year. Cam Akers was really struggling to get the playbook, but then as soon as this guy got the starting job, he ran away with it. He was a top 5 fantasy running back for the last 6 weeks of the year last year. And if you just did the last 4 weeks, he was a top 3 running back in the league. I mean, he's going to have a better quarterback situation with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford has been a guy who will throw to the running backs at times. I just think Cam Akers is going to get a hell of a ton of work. And I want him on my team. I have him on most of my teams. And I had to trade him for Jonathan Taylor last year in one of them, and it broke my heart. But I love Jonathan Taylor, obviously. But I'm for sure team trade for Cam Akers.
Yeah, Cam Akers. I would love him on my team, but at the same time, being valued really high. Like in startup drafts, he's being drafted in the first round in a lot of drafts. It's either late first or early second. But yeah, I can see it going either way, really, for Cam. I think that he has the potential to be a number 1 overall running back in a year or two. But at the same time, you're talking about last year's stats. Towards the end, like week 15 against the Jets, he had 15 carries for 63 rushing yards. In Arizona, he had 21 carries for 34 rushing yards. So neither one with touchdowns. So neither one's great performance, but in the playoffs, he absolutely dominated. I know Sean McVay's had many of good things, said that he can be that RB1 for the Rams, and I do believe that. But I still really like Darrell Henderson, and I think that he will be a thorn in his side. But still, I think Cam has the potential to be that number 1 overall running back. Now, for my second trade 4 is going to be Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs is going like in the teens in drafts for redraft and dynasty. And I think that's a bit too low because he has the potential to be the number 1 option at Las Vegas. Well, obviously behind Darren Waller. Darren Waller will probably be the number 1 target. But for number 1 wide receiver, I think Henry Ruggs could be that guy. We saw Nelson Aguilar do a pretty good job for the Raiders, and I think Ruggs can get some of those targets that Aguilar had. And he could potentially be a good wide receiver too that you're getting in like the 12th, 13th round.
Henry Ruggs is a weird one for me. It was weird watching it last year because the guy is super fast, but still struggled to get separation at times last year on his routes. I mean, he's a rookie. He's playing against NFL calibered corners, but it was just weird to watch because, like, for a guy as fast as he is, you would just expect that separation would be easy for him. And it was something he definitely struggled with last year. We'll see how it goes this year. I would say that his value is probably as low as it'll ever be if you did want to try to trade for him, like you said. He got cut in a league that I was in. I was telling Luke about this before we started, but he got cut in a league that I'm in right after the draft because they overdrafted spots and they just couldn't keep him. And no one was going to trade for a guy and not let him bail the guy out from having to cut a guy like that. But I mean, he was also picked up the next day off of waivers for like 30 bucks or whatever. So a guy put a lot of money into him, but it's just hard right now. I mean, my next guy is a receiver as well. I think he's just a lock to be a top 10 receiver this year if he stays healthy, and that's Kenny Gallaudet. Some people would argue that he's going from Matthew Stafford to Daniel Jones, but I would also argue that Kenny Gallaudet found ways to produce on the field no matter what quarterback was playing in the last 2 years. And I love Matthew Stafford, but the dude's been banged up the last couple of years. He's not played every single game. Kenny Gallaudet has gone through a lot of quarterbacks, and Kenny Gallaudet just finds a way to produce. The other thing is Daniel Jones actually goes downfield at a high rate. Like, this is not something you would think about when you think of Daniel Jones throwing downfield, but he does. And Kenny Gallaudet is going to be such a good 50-50 ball guy. I think Daniel Jones is going to rely on him a lot. I think he's going to get a lot of red zone targets. I think the Kenny Gallaudet to the Giants move is going to be a really interesting one to watch. If he can stay healthy, I think he's going to end up being a top 7 receiver fantasy-wise.
Yeah, if Kenny Gallaudet can stay healthy, like, I think that's a match made in heaven between Daniel Jones and Kenny Gallaudet. Like, they are perfect for each other. Daniel Jones is a more aggressive quarterback. He'll throw down the field more than others. And
is he super accurate? Not
no,
always. But Kenny Gallaudet doesn't lose points when Daniel Jones throws interceptions.
Right. Yeah, that is very true. But yeah, Kenny also, like you said, he gets those 50-50 balls. So
hey, a 50-50 ball to Kenny Gallaudet is more like a 70-30 ball.
Yeah, pretty well. Like, I know he is no Megatron, but since they didn't have Megatron there at Detroit, he was about the closest thing they were going to get.
So, yeah, did they used to call him like Baby Megatron or
yeah, it was like Babytron for a while.
Something like that.
Yeah. Now, speaking of the Lions, my next guy is from the Lions, and that is going to be TJ Hawkinson. Now, I'm a big trade for him because right now I think that Kyle Pitts is being valued over TJ Hawkinson. And TJ Hawkinson has played in the NFL already. He has the NFL experience. And there's like no competition for targets in that Detroit offense. I know Jared Goff is a downgrade from Matthew Stafford. Yes, I get that. But he's still a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I think TJ is going to get a lot of targets in that. I think he's going to be great as a tight end, especially in PPR formats.
I like Hawkinson a lot. I don't like the Lions at all. It's just a tough situation to draft. Usually when I say I don't trust the quarterback, I can at least say that I can trust them to throw to the running backs and tight ends. But the issue is Jared Goff has really struggled throwing to tight ends. Now, you could make the argument that his best tight ends in Los Angeles are not that of Hawkinson. I mean, Higbee had that one season where he ended up with a lot of touchdowns.
I got to say, Higbee's probably been his best option, and I don't think he's TJ Hawkinson.
And I mean, but that was just 2 years ago. I mean, last year, Higbee's season was still a disappointment. I mean, I think Hawkinson will end up being fine. Like you said, there's not many other options, but defenses are also going to zone in on Hawkinson. I'm not saying I would trade him away. I'm just saying I would not give up too much for the guy. I would just be very cautious, especially in redrafts. If it's just for a 1-year deal, I'm worried that the Lions are not going to win many games. They're just not a very good roster. They're going to be relying on a lot of young guys.
Now, would you take Kyle Pitts or TJ Hawkinson
this year?
Yeah.
If I'm drafting one, I think Hawkinson should go earlier, but I'd rather have Pitts for this year, I think.
Rather have Pitts. I mean, fair enough. I guess it depends where
the Lions are just that situation for me right now. I just do not trust them. I don't.
It's kind of like the Texans, and you don't want any part of the offense.
And I like Swift a lot. I don't want Swift on my team right now. I'm just worried about this Lions team, man. I am. Like, I think they're a candidate to win like 2 to 4 games.
Yeah, I think that they might end up getting the number 1 overall pick. Like, I was trying hard to get DeAndre Swift last year, and this offseason, I know we brought the topic up again. I said, no, I can't do it. Like, I just can't.
Not for the same price. I mean, like, Swift had a really good year last year. Maybe they'll rely on the run game a lot, but it's just hard when you don't have that second aspect of your offense. But my last one is a guy I like a lot. I wasn't expecting him to be as high on my list because I was really expecting the Dolphins to add a running back in either the draft or free agency, but they didn't. And that either tells me they missed out on a lot of guys or they believe in this guy. And that's Myles Gaskin. And either way, Myles Gaskin is just not going to have much struggle for snaps this year. It's going to be him against Malcolm Brown. I will be shocked if Myles Gaskin at minimum doesn't have at least 75% of those snaps if he's healthy the entire year. And honestly, I think it could go all the way up to like the 90% tile. I just think he's going to get the rock. Tua is very questionable. And what do you do with questionable quarterbacks? You hand the ball off. I think Myles Gaskin could get a lot of work. He succeeded last year when his name was called, got injured here and there, got dinged up here. But they didn't draft anyone. They didn't sign anyone. Again, there's 2 options. They missed out on everyone else that they thought was an upgrade, or they believe in the guy. But either way, it doesn't matter in a 1-year type format. I think Myles Gaskin is going to be very successful this year. I have him in multiple leagues, and it's hard for me to trade him away because I just really think he's going to have a good year.
I got to say, I really like Myles Gaskin going into this season. Like, he was one of the biggest winners of this offseason. I thought if Javonte to him and they'd take Javonte Williams. I thought if Aaron Jones made it to free agency, they'd go with Aaron Jones. But neither one of them got picked up by the Dolphins. And so Gaskin, he's got the lead role by a mile. And I think he could have, like how James Robinson had like 90% of the touches out of the backfield for Jacksonville last year. I think Gaskin could have that type of role in this Miami offense.
Gaskin is my favorite guy to get as my running back 3 in leagues right now, just because people just don't think about him. And if I can sneak him in there as my 3 and I can use him in the flex, or he can be the interchangeable on bye weeks for me, I love it. I don't know if I'm prepared to be able to say I'd want him as my 1 or 2 yet. In a redraft, maybe I'd be willing to have him as a 2.
Yeah, that'd be a bit rich for me. I don't know if I would want to have him as my 2. I think he could be an RB2.
In a redraft league where I decided to go like receiver heavy, I think I could live with him being my running back 2. Definitely couldn't be my running back 1.
Right.
Not if I want to win. But I mean, hey, that was trade away and trade for. I think we're going to try to do this during the season a little bit too, as we see some stocks go up and down, just to see where people are and who's on our radars for you guys to check into. But if you guys trade for any of these guys or trade away any of these guys in the next coming week after listening to the episode, DM us, comment on the episode. I want to see what you got rid of to get those kind of guys. I just want to see what you guys are doing. I love fantasy trades. We'd love to grade your fantasy trades. Up next, we have the One Call Technology topic of the day. One Call Technology is a managed telecom service provider whose senior staff has 100+ years of experience in virtually every aspect of business communications, business phone system installations and services, managed telecom service providers, telecom carrier managements, high-speed internet. Head on over to One Call's website at www.onecalltech.com or give them a call at 888-585-8850 and tell them the Blue Stable and the Fantasy Table sent you. And up next, the next topic, we're going to give you guys our top 10 of how we think the rookies should get drafted in your Dynasty League drafts this year. We're going from 1 to 10. We're going to go in order. So to break it up, we're going to go 3 at a time. And then once we get to 6, we'll do 4 to end it out. But I'll go first here. And going number 1, I think this is easy, and it's Najee Harris. I just think he is by far the best running back available to draft. And I mean, running back is good as money, good as cash in fantasy leagues, man. You got to have running backs or you're just not going to be successful. Number 2, Usually not the position that I put a lot of favors in, but this guy is just incredible, and that's Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts at 2. I just think if I'm drafting in the top 2, unless I am set at tight end, I just don't see a way I can pass on Kyle Pitts, how good I think he's going to be, the work he's going to get in year 1. And then at 3, I have Jamar Chase, receiver out of Cincinnati. Personally, I think that should be the 3 on everyone's board. Maybe some interchanging if you have Chase over Pitts or vice versa. But I don't see any other player that I think is good enough to jump any of those 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I am the exact same way. I have Naje at number 1 just because I think he is going to get a boatload of carries at the Pittsburgh offense, like how Le'Veon Bell got like everything. I don't think that Snell is going to be forcing him to miss touches in the Pittsburgh backfield. And then number 2, Kyle Pitts. I think that he is just the generational talent of tight end. If you can get Travis Kelce his rookie year, you would get him. And that's the potential that Kyle Pitts has, which in our dynasty draft, the guy who owned Travis Kelce actually traded Travis Kelce away to draft Pitts at number 1 overall in our rookie draft, which is mind-blowing to me, but that's to each their own. And then at number 3, we got Jamar Chase. I think that the reunion with Burrow is just going to – he's just the best wide receiver in this class by far, and I couldn't put any of the other running backs or wide receivers above him.
Now, 4 through 6 is a little bit tougher. 4 and 5 for sure are interchangeable for me. I think you could go either way. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Devonta Smith at 4 in Philadelphia, just because I like his situation more than who I have at 5, who is Jaylen Waddle. If you asked me who I would take in the NFL draft back in April, I would have said Jaylen Waddle over Devonta Smith. But going off situations and fantasy-wise, I like Jalen Hurts more than I like Tua, which is wild for me to say because I was just very anti-Hurts coming out of the draft and thought Tua was a guy that could at least be decent. I'm worried about Tua in the NFL, I'm not going to lie. So I'm going to go Devonta Smith at 4, Jaylen Waddle at 5, and at 6, like you said earlier, running backs are gold, and this guy is going to get a lot of work. It looks like he's already going to get the starting job in Denver, and that's Javonte Williams at 6.
Yeah, so I actually have Javonte at 4 just because I think that he's going to be that guy. I think he's going to be the guy this year because I love Melvin Gordon, but I don't think that he's going to have that much left in him, especially after this year that his contract's up. I think they're going to try to see what they got in Williams now while they have the chance. At number 5, I got Devonta Smith just because he's the only, I wouldn't say the only wide receiver because Jalen Reagor's still there. I think Jalen Reagor will be a good wide receiver too, but Devonta Smith is just a beast. He's ridiculous. There's a reason why he's a Heisman winner.
Fulgham criticism on this podcast right now is not acceptable.
Travis Fulgham. Hey, after Carson Wentz got left that starting job, Travis Fulgham didn't seem to do as hot with Jalen Hurts there. But at number 6, I got Travis Etienne up here. I know you're not a Travis Etienne fan, but I still think this is mainly going dynasty-wise. So while I think James Robinson still has some value, I could still see this being like a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt type backfield where Travis Etienne still gets a lot of work and he can still be a good running back. And potentially, if you get it to where James Robinson doesn't get all the carries, I think Travis Etienne could be a good running back too, and potentially even a running back one.
I want to go on record saying I'm not anti-Travis Etienne. I am anti-Urban Meyer. I think Urban Meyer is an idiot, and I am anti this fit. If Travis Etienne would have went to Buffalo, he may have been top 3 or 4 on my fantasy rank, my rookie rankings.
I might have put him over Jamar Chase if that happened.
It would have been close, but he's not. He is in Jacksonville. I hate it. And we're going to move on. At 7, I have a running back that I do trust in a situation I do trust, and that is Michael Carter. I am banging the table for Michael Carter the entire season. I am buying all the shares I can. If you're in a dynasty league with me, just know if you're picking after me, after pick 5 in the first round, probably, if you want Michael Carter, you better trade above me because I'm taking Michael Carter in rookie drafts. I love him. I love his game. I think he's going to be a guy that Zach Wilson likes a lot year one. And like I said earlier, I love when running backs just don't have a lot of competition. And as much as I love the Hoosier and Telvin Coleman, Michael Carter is going to get a lot of the work. Earlier, like I said about Myles Gaskin, I think Carter gets at least 75% of the snaps. In PPR formats, I think he's going to get a high level of catches already. Get Michael Carter. That's all I got to say. At 8, I have Elijah Moore, one of my biggest draft crushes of the year. Again, just love the fit in this Jets offense. I think this Jets offense is going to be fun. I don't know how many games they're going to win this year. They're really young. They're going to be relying on a lot of young guys to produce. But I think they'll at least be entertaining to watch. They're going to be a team that if the Colts aren't on, I'm probably going to turn on a Jets game just to see what's going on over there because I'm really interested to see what these young guys can do. At 9, I have the first quarterback coming off the board in Trevor Lawrence. I think he's just going to be able to get a lot of work. From day one, they're just going to rely heavy on him. I like James Robinson, but I think they're really going to go pass heavy in this league, knowing what this league is, knowing Urban Meyer. I think he's going to be very pass heavy with Trevor Lawrence, so I think he's going to get a lot of attempts. And then at 10, I have Rashad Bateman because the receiver situation in Baltimore is weird, and they took him in the first round. I think they're going to try to use him. I really do. I would take Rashad Bateman over Hollywood Brown currently. If I had to choose between the two, I just think he's going to get more work. He's going to get more targets, and that's who I have at 10. And sorry to ETN lovers, he's not in my top 10.
Yeah, it's crazy to see, but I understand the reasoning. But at number 6, I got Jaylen Waddle. And like you said before, the big part of this is just the fit with the Dolphins. Like, I think Jaylen Waddle is probably 2A to the wide receiver class of this draft. And I think that he could be unlocked with Tua, but it's a big what if for me, and I don't know if I want to take that risk earlier on in the draft. Then I got Michael Carter. I know you love him a lot. I got him, one spot ranked.
Hey, that's not bad. One spot below me who loves Michael Carter. Like, I can accept that.
Yeah, I think Carter could be Nyheim Hines if he had the starting role on an offense, and the Jets are going to pass a lot. I think the Jets are going to pass a lot, so I think Carter's going to get a lot of work out of that backfield. The only worry I have of him is long-term value since he was a 4th-round pick. I think he's going to be great this year. I don't know about next year. Then I have Elijah Moore. I know we both love Elijah Moore. We both have him ranked as our 4th wide receiver going into this rookie draft. I got him at 11th overall in our rookie draft. I traded Kenyon Drake actually to go get Elijah Moore. So I'm hoping that he can be that guy for Zach Wilson. And then at number 10, I put Trey Sermon. And the reason I put Trey Sermon is because I've heard that he's actually doing very well at 49ers camp. I think that he has the chance to be the number 1 running back in San Francisco. And San Francisco running backs, if you combine them, they would be a top 3 running back in fantasy every year. The question is, how much of that work does Trey Sermon get? But he has the potential to be a league winner if you can get him at that price.
San Francisco is tough because it's so hard to predict who is going to be the running back 1 of the week, let alone the year. If we counted 11 and 12, ETN would have been 11, Sermon would have been 12. Like, if those guys go in round 1 because you just need a running back heavy and the others are just gone at that point, I understand it. They just didn't make the top 10 for me. And ETN, I know I'm in the minority on. I just hated the fit that much. Other people dislike the fit. I hate the fit, and especially if he's going to get used at receiver over half the time, it just seems like a waste of a pick. I mean, I guess I'm okay with it because it's Jacksonville, but I just hate it for his stock.
Yeah, I just thought it was crazy that with all those other holes in the Jacksonville team, you're just taking a running back that you're saying is the backup running back or a slot receiver with a first-round pick that you have. It didn't make much sense to me, no matter what was going on. Even if he is a starter, I still think that's a crazy
And they
pick.
have Laviska Shenault, who is the definition of a slot. So fun. I just hope Urban Meyer doesn't ruin everything. I've traded most of the Jacksonville Jaguars I have in fantasy because of that. Moving on to the last topic of the day, we're going to rank the most important position in fantasy football, and that is the running backs. So we are going to rank our top 15 running backs for this year. We just ranked rookies. This now is moving on to overall running backs. So I think we should probably do the opposite. We went 1 to 10 on the last list. I think we should go from 15 up. So we can do this in three. Let's do this in 3 parts. So we'll go 5 at a time. Do you want to go first or second, Luke?
I'll go second.
All right. I can go first. At 15, I have Naje Harris. Out of Pittsburgh, I think he's going to get a lot of work. The offensive line is skeptical. 4 out of their 5 offensive linemen are new starters this year. Big Ben is not mobile. I'm nervous that they're not going to have much of a pass game to help Harris this year, but the amount of touches he's going to get to me outweighs that, which is why I have him at 15. At 14, I have Austin Eckler. I think Eckler is going to get high usage out of the Chargers. The only reason that I decided to go against it is because I don't know how much they're going to run the ball, actually, because I think this team is going to be very heavy up pass. I think Herbert is that kind of guy. I think you're going to see a very similar pass run ratio as you see in Kansas City almost. They're just going to let Herbert sling it. And I just think Eckler is going to lose a lot of the carries because of that. So that's why I have him a little bit lower than other people. 13, I have Gibson. I like Gibson the player. I'm more nervous about injuries, but I do think he's going to get more usage out of the backfield than Eckler will, while also being able to be a guy for Fitzpatrick pass-wise. So I have Gibson 1 spot over Eckler. At 12, I have my draft crush from the last 2 years that I refuse to put in the top 10 because he's hurt me so many times, and that's Joe Mixon. Until Joe Mixon can stay healthy, he's going to be outside of the top 10 for me. He's going to have a lot of work. Not a lot of guys in the backfield. I like Chris Evans. He's a guy that I think you should try to snag in the end of your dynasty drafts for sure.
Don't sleep on Samaje Perine.
Samaje Perine. Yeah. Like I said, Chris Evans, add him, not Samaje Perine. But Joe Mixon's a guy that I think if he ends up being the 12th running back off your board, he could end up being a great value for you. But outside of my top 10 for now. And at 11, I have Cam Akers. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. I love Cam Akers. I don't know if I'd want him as my running back 1. So when you're saying that there are people taking him in round 1 this year, that's a little bit of an overreaction to me. I'm definitely not doing that. But I think he is a stud. I think he's going to get a lot of work, and I'm excited to see this season out of him. And that was my first 5, 15 to 11.
Yeah, so at 15, I have Joe Mixon down here. And the main reason is I just can't trust him. Like, I loved him a few years ago, but I can't get behind him anymore. I want to. I think he's a great player. I think he could get a lot of carries. But he's one of those guys that is usually on my do not draft list. Even though I like him, unless I'm getting a significant discount for him, I'm not drafting him. And especially since I have Captain America as his backup now with Chris Evans. And then at 14, I have Antonio Gibson. Like you said before, he's got that nagging toe injury. It sounds like he's still working with that toe injury at the moment, which scares me as a guy who has Antonio Gibson on a lot of teams. But I love Antonio Gibson. I think that he could take a step forward to be even better than what he was last year. At 13, I got Naje Harris. And like you said before, he's like we said with the running back rankings as well, he's just going to get all the touches. He's going to get a lot of work, especially with Big Ben getting older. He's going to get a lot of dump off passes. Now at number 12, I got Clyde Edwards-Lair. And this is where I was talking to you earlier about how I have him 1 spot ahead. I just love like him in Kansas City. I still think that I know there's more talent talented running backs, but just the offense that he's in, he's going to see goal line work. He's going to see touches. He's going to see receiving. He's going to get targets. He's going to get it all, even though he's not like a Naje Harris.
So he's not in my top 15. So this isn't a spoiler alert.
Right.
Where do you think he is on my running back rankings for this year? If you had to guess.
I'm going to guess probably around 20.
He's exactly 20. Clyde is at 20 on my running back rankings right now.
That's what I was thinking. And then at number 11, I also have Cam Akers. I think the fit with the Rams, I love Cam. I think that he's going to be great. He has the potential to be number one. Like I said, it just depends on the workload that the Rams want to give him, because he showed what he can do in the playoffs, and it's tremendous.
So at number 10 for me, I have David Montgomery. Montgomery's a guy that felt like boom or bust for a long time, but down the stretch last year, I just felt like he was dominant. He was hitting the holes with confidence. He was running aggressively. I think he was moving swifter than he really had ever done before. Tarik Cohen's going to be back for pass catches, but I really think this is going to be Montgomery's backfield. I really do. I think he's a guy that just showed me a lot last year. I have him at 10 just because he's not had multi-year success yet. So I'm just going to keep him at 10.
I have Montgomery on my dynasty team, and I really hope that he does this because he's my flex right now. So I would love to see him be a top 10 running back.
Hey, I'm putting a lot of trust in him, but I really do like the talent there. At 9, some people are trying to move off Zeke. He's still a top 10 running back in my book. Dallas was a weird situation last year, one of the most plagued teams with injuries. I think Zeke lost a lot of morale. Running backs, if they don't have confidence, their skill is just gone. Like, it doesn't matter how skilled you are, it just doesn't matter. If there's not confidence, if you're not enjoying yourself on the field, I think Zeke's going to be in a much better place mentally, physically, to be able to have success this year. But because of how much of a disaster it was last year, he's still going to be on the downside of my top 10. At 8, I'm going to go J.K. Dobbins over Cam Akers that I said earlier. I think J.K. Dobbins is a guy that's going to get a lot of work. I felt like in the little bit of snaps he saw last year, it just always looked like he was the most talented running back in their backfield. It just felt like every time he would get the ball, it'd be for 9-10 yards, but he just didn't get it at a high rep. And I think that's not going to be the case this year. I think it's going to be his backfield. Mark Ingram's gone. Mark Ingram didn't really play near the end of the year last year anyway, just to give the young guys work. Expect Dobbins to get a lot of goal line work, especially. At 7, this is the lowest I've ever had this guy, Saquon Barkley. Coming off the ACL, that scares me. The dude's legs are humongous. It makes me nervous that it could happen again. I'm hoping that the additions to the receiving room take a little bit of the pressure away from Saquon to where he doesn't have to be relied on so much, but less carries means dropping a little bit lower on my list than probably some people have him. So I have Barkley at 7. At 6, I have Nick Chubb at 6. The reason being Kareem Hunt's there. Chubb missed some time last year. I think he's super talented when he's in there, and they run the ball a lot. So if he's fully healthy, he probably ends up being a top 5 fantasy back this year. But with everything considered, I went ahead and had him at 6.
Yeah, so I got Chubb at 10 just because of that Kareem Hunt in the back there. Like, I love Chubb. I think he's a great running back, but having Hunt back there just hurts him so much. I don't know if he's ever been like a top 5 running back in fantasy. I don't think he has, just because Hunt's always been there. But if Hunt wasn't there, I think he could be a Derrick Henry and just dominate. Then at number 9, I have Austin Eckler. I'm a bit higher than what you are on Eckler. I just think that he could have a career year this year with Herbert. I think that he could get so much passing work that it'll make up for the lack of running. At number 8, I have Aaron Jones. I still think Aaron Jones will be a top 10 running back, but like I said, this might be his last year of being up this high. And then at number 7, I got Jonathan Taylor. Now, I know Colts fans probably aren't going to like to hear this, but it's just hard whenever he's got so much competition for touches back there. Now that we bring Marlon Mack back, I think that he will still get touches. Like, we're not just going to bring him back just to let him sit on the bench. And in case Jonathan Taylor gets hurt, he's going to. But I still think Mac gets touches. Hines will get touches because Hines is explosive. But yeah, that's why I have Jonathan Taylor here at 7. And then at 6, I got Ezekiel Elliott up here. And I just think that with Dak coming back, I think that's just going to open up that offense so much more. I love the 3 receivers in Dallas, Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. I think that can open up running lanes for Zeke. I just think that he will get that step back, not to be the number 1 overall like he was a few years ago, but I still think he'll be a top not upper half because he's at 6, but right there on the cusp of it.
So I have Jonathan Taylor at 5. I'm taking into account the backfield being pretty busy, but I mean, he wasn't even listed as the actual starter for the full season last year. And the dude was just so talented, especially down the stretch. It was like him and Derrick Henry were competing to be the best 1 or 2 running backs in the NFL fantasy-wise down the stretch. And it was stiff competition. It wasn't just Derrick Henry running away with it. Jonathan Taylor was giving him a run for his money. And I just think even with the guys here, I think Hines is going to go back to being more of a receiving back. I hope he still gets carries. He's improved so much in that area of his game. I would hate for him to just lose it altogether. Marlon Mack, I think, is going to end up being more of a locker room type guy, let him rehab more to be able to go get a contract next year. Instead, came back to a familiar place. I think he's still going to get carries here and there. It'll just be similar to what Jordan Wilkins has gotten over the years. And I'm not sure who that 4th running back is going to be, whether it'll be Wilkins or Duke, but we'll see what happens. At 4, I have Derrick Henry. I only have him at 4 below the top 3 because of the addition of Julio Jones. I feel like the Titans are going to feel pressured to be a more pass offense. I don't know if I'd say they're pass heavy. I think they're still going to have to be at least a 60-40 split. But I mean, in the years past, it's felt more like a 75-25 split. So even coming down to the 60-40 run is going to be significant work taken away from Henry. And Henry just doesn't really have much impact on the pass game, if at all. Almost always, if it's a pass rep, they take him out of the game. So, like, they just take him out altogether. At 3, I have Alvin Kamara. And that reasoning being, I think he's going to get a ton of work still out of the backfield with whoever is going to end up being the quarterback. I'm going to guess it's going to be Jameis. I still think he'll get his receptions, but I think he's going to get a lot of carries still. So I have Kamara at 3. And at 2, I have Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook is just a stud, gets a ton of work in the pass and run game, and he's just so good. To me, I know he was injured a lot last year, but I just can't put him out of my top 2. And at 1, missed a lot last year, but Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, is ridiculous fantasy wise. It feels like you're an automatic playoff team if you have Christian McCaffrey healthy on your team the entire year, because it's an automatic 20 to 30 fantasy points a week. Like 20, if he only puts up 20 in a fantasy week in a PPR league, you kind of feel a little disappointed. And that's just ridiculous to me, and that's why I have him at 1.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey is just a different animal when it comes to fantasy. Like I can't, like, I don't know if there's ever been someone that's been like this untouchable at number 1. I'm sure, I know there has been, and if we bring up names, we would say, oh yeah, that guy was too. But he's reminding me of Todd Gurley, like peak years. Like, he's just that dominant. But number 5, I have Saquon Barkley. I just have the hopes, and as a Saquon Barkley owner, I just hope that he'll come back to be that guy that he was before the ACL injury. I think that he can, especially now that the Giants offense has a lot more weapons. They're not just going to be focused on Saquon like the Pittsburgh Steelers were whenever Saquon had like 10 rushing attempts for -5 yards. That hurt watching that game. But then at number 4, I have Derrick Henry as well. And for the same reasons as you said, I think that they're just going to be passing the ball more. He's not much of a receiving down back at all. Like you said, they usually take him out for any third down like role. And then at number 3, Alvin Kamara. He's going to get a lot of work no matter who the quarterback is, because you look at that offense and it's Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and then basically nobody, unless you want to think that Adam Troutman's going to take a leap, or I can't even remember who their second wide receiver is, but I think he's going to get a lot of work in the receiving and running game to just get a lot of points yet. Even though I know a lot of people are trying to trade away Alvin Kamara, I still think he's going to be a great asset. Number 2, Dalvin Cook. He's just unreal. I didn't draft him last year, and looking at him now, I'm just it hurts me just seeing how great he is. But yeah, I don't know if there's any buts to him just because he's so good. At number 1, Christian McCaffrey. I don't think it's a question. I know even with the injury, like, you got to take that risk just because if he's healthy, he's going to be at least at minimum, I feel like a third overall running back this year. It's just crazy. Now, I know you had J.K. Dobbins up in your rankings. I didn't have him in my top 15.
I was trying to look here. So I didn't have Aaron Jones in my top 15. You did. Mm-hmm. I didn't have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, obviously. Right. So then you didn't have J.K. Dobbins, and you didn't have Montgomery. You didn't have Montgomery. I actually don't own J.K. Dobbins in any league, so I don't have any personal reason to have him this high. I just weirdly think he's going to be stellar this year. I really do.
But I do agree with what you said on him being the more talented running back in that backfield. He is so good. But whenever I saw that contract that they signed Gus Edwards to, I was shocked. I think that they're still going to give Gus Edwards a lot of work. I know Lamar is still going to take a lot of rushing work away from JK. I don't know how many touches he's going to get is the only reason why I didn't put him up that high. I think they're going to split that a lot.
I hate split back, and maybe that's why I don't own J.K. Dobbins, because I just hate running back committees. But hey, thanks so much, guys, for listening to the Fantasy Table, brought to you guys by the Blue Stable, the official Colts podcast of Fansided. Make sure you guys hit us up in our comments or DMs. We're going to do another position of the top 15 next week. Let us know what position you want to hear about. Do you want to hear the quarterbacks, the receivers, the tight ends? Are you guys big kicker defense people? Who knows? Just let us know what you want to hear the top 15 of next week, along with other topics you want to hear next week. But my name is Destin Adams. Joined with me was Luke Verkamp. Hopefully we get Rashad on with us next week. His kid has been sleeping a little bit when we're recording. We've been recording pretty late. It's on us. But we're going to try to get Rashad here with us to talk fantasy football, guys. But we're so close to fantasy football season. Hopefully you guys' drafts are starting. It's a lot of fun year. And do you have anything to say, Luke?
No, I don't have anything to add. I hope that we can get Rashad on soon. I missed the guy. But, yeah, can't wait to hear his takes. And I'm hoping that we don't have to go over kicker or defense rankings next week. But
so make sure you flood our comments with kicker and defense requests to upset Luke Verkamp for the next episode. But all right, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.